My name is Catherine, and I'm 53 years old. 3 days ago, I was lying in this hospital bed, recovering from what I thought was the worst part of my ordeal surgery. But then my phone rang. It was my daughter Ashley calling from what sounded like a car. My car, actually. I expected her to ask how I was feeling, maybe when I'd be coming home. Instead, she said 5 words that shattered my world. Your house and car are sold. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Everything I'd worked for, everything I owned, just gone. But Ashley forgot one very important thing. Before I share what happened next, let me ask you wonderful people watching. Where are you tuning in from today? Please hit that like button and subscribe, because this story will show you why family betrayal cuts the deepest. But sometimes karma has the perfect plan. Let me take you back to when life still made sense, when I trusted the people I loved most. I've been a widow for 15 years now. My husband David died in a car accident when Ashley was just 12 years old. One moment we were a happy family of 3. The next, I was a single mother trying to figure out how to raise a grieving daughter while dealing with my own heartbreak. Those early years of diabetes after David's death were the hardest of my life. I worked double shifts at the local diner Sunrise Cafe just to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. The house on Maple Street wasn't much to look at, but it was ours. David and I had bought it right after we got married, back when we thought we had all the time in the world to fix it up and fill it with children. After he died, that little house became our sanctuary. Every creaky floorboard held a memory, every room echoed with laughter from better times. Ashley was such a sweet child back then. She'd wait for me at the kitchen table every night, homework spread out, ready to tell me about her day. She never complained about the hand-me-down clothes or the fact that we couldn't afford family vacations like her friends. She'd help me count tips at the end of each day, making little piles of quarters and dimes on the scratched wooden table. "We're a team, Mummy," she'd say, and I believed her with every fibre of my being. When Ashley graduated high school with a full scholarship to State University, I cried tears of pure joy. All those years of sacrifice had been worth it. My baby girl was going to have opportunities I never dreamed of. She was going to make something of herself. But college changed her. Maybe it was being around kids with more money, or maybe it was just growing up. But Ashley started coming home different. The grateful, understanding daughter I'd raised was replaced by someone who seemed embarrassed by our modest life. She'd critique the house, asking why I never updated the kitchen, or why I still drove that old Honda Accord I'd bought used in 2010. "Mum, you really need to think about your image," she'd say, during visits, looking around our living room with barely concealed disappointment. "This place is so outdated." After graduation, Ashley landed a marketing job in the city. Good money, she said, though she never seemed to have enough of it. She'd call me maybe once a month, usually when she needed something. A loan for first month's rent, help with a security deposit, money for professional clothes. I gave her what I could, dipping into my small savings account again and again, because I wanted to support her dreams. But the requests got bigger and more frequent. Ashley would call with these urgent emergencies. Her car broke down and she needed $800 immediately. Her roommate moved out and she couldn't make rent. Her credit card got stolen and she needed money to cover the fraudulent charges while the bank investigated. Each story sounded plausible, and each time I found a way to help. What really worried me was when Ashley started asking about my will and estate planning. This started when I was barely 50, still young and healthy. "Mum, you really should put everything in my name for tax purposes," she'd say during our phone calls. "It would save so much money and hassle down the road." I'd laugh it off, telling her I wasn't planning on going anywhere anytime soon. But something about the way she'd pushed the subject made me uncomfortable. There was an urgency in her voice that didn't match the casual way she brought it up. Think about it practically, Mum. If something happened to you, wouldn't you want everything to transfer smoothly to me? All this bureaucracy and probate stuff is such a headache. When I'd gently decline or change the subject, Ashley would get quiet and end the call quickly. Our conversations became shorter and less frequent. I told myself she was just busy with her career, but deep down, I wondered if my refusal to sign over my assets was affecting our relationship. Then, about 6 months ago, I started having problems with abdominal pain. At first, I thought it was just stress, or maybe something I ate, but it got worse, sharp stabbing pains that would double me over while I was serving customers at the diner. My manager, Sarah, finally insisted I see a doctor. The diagnosis was ovarian cysts, some of them quite large. The doctor recommended surgery to remove them before they caused more complications. Surgery meant time off work, which meant no income. It meant being vulnerable and dependent on others, which I hated. But most of all, it meant calling Ashley and admitting I needed help. When I finally worked up the courage to call her Ashley, surprised me with her immediate concern. Of course I'll come home to help you, Mum. Don't even think about going through this alone. For the first time in years, she sounded like my little girl again. Warm, caring, present. She took a week off work and drove down from the city. She went with me to the pre-surgery appointments, took notes when the doctor explained the procedure, and helped me prepare the house for my recovery. You don't need to worry about anything, Ashley assured me, as she organized my medications and wrote out care instructions. I've got everything under control. The night before my surgery, Ashley made my favorite dinner spaghetti with meat sauce, the same recipe I'd made for her countless times as a child. We sat at that old kitchen table, and for a moment it felt like we were a team again. I know I haven't been the best daughter lately, Ashley said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Work has been so stressful, and I guess I've been taking it out on you. I'm sorry, Mum. I squeezed her hand back, feeling tears prick my eyes. You're here now, sweetie. That's all that matters. As I handed over my car keys and house keys that night, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in months. My daughter loved me. She was going to take care of everything while I focused on getting better. What could go wrong? The morning of my surgery, Ashley drove me to the hospital in my Honda. She sat with me in the pre-op area, holding my hand and cracking jokes to keep my spirits up. When they wheeled me into the operating room, her face was the last thing I saw, and she was smiling encouragingly. The surgery went better than expected. The doctor was able to remove all the cysts laparoscopically, which meant smaller incisions and faster healing time. When I woke up in recovery, the first thing I wanted was to call Ashley and share the good news. But Ashley wasn't answering her phone. The nurse explained that I'd need to stay in the hospital for 3 days for observation. Standard procedure, nothing to worry about. I kept trying Ashley's number throughout that first day, leaving increasingly anxious voicemails. Hi, honey, it's Mum. The surgery went great. Call me back when you get this. Ashley, I'm worried because I haven't heard from you. Please call. Sweetie, are you okay? I just need to know you're safe. Finally, late that evening, Ashley called back. But something was wrong immediately. I could hear traffic noise and wind in the background, like she was driving with the windows down. Sorry, Mum. I've been running around all day handling some paperwork for you, she said. But her voice sounded strained, rushed. What paperwork? I asked, confused. What do you mean? Oh, just boring financial stuff. Insurance forms, that kind of thing. How are you feeling? The way she changed the subject so quickly bothered me. But the pain medication was making me foggy. We only talked for a few minutes before she said she had to go. The second day brought more strange calls. Ashley would call at odd times, always with that same background noise of traffic and wind. When I asked where she was, she'd give vague answers. Just out handling your affairs, Mum. Don't worry about it. What affairs, Ashley? You're scaring me. There's nothing to be scared of. I'm taking care of everything just like I promised. But she didn't sound like she was taking care of anything. She sounded frantic, distracted. And why was she always in the car? My neighbour, Mrs. Patterson, called that afternoon with news that made my stomach drop. Catherine, I hope you don't mind me calling, but I saw some people at your house today. Men in suits with clipboards walking around the property taking pictures. Is everything all right? I assured her everything was fine, that Ashley was probably just getting some estimates for home repairs we'd discussed. But inside, alarm bells were ringing. What estimates? We'd never discussed any repairs. Then my co-worker Linda from the diner called with even more disturbing news. Your daughter was asking a lot of questions about your finances when she came in yesterday, Linda said carefully. She wanted to know about your tips, your savings, whether you had any debts. Sarah thought it was odd the way she was asking, like she was gathering information for something specific. My hands were shaking as I hung up the phone. Why would Ashley be asking about my finances? And when had she gone to the diner? She'd told me she was staying at the house preparing for my return. I called Ashley immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried again an hour later. Same thing. When she finally called me back that evening, her tone had changed completely from the caring daughter who'd held my hand before surgery. Mum, I need to tell you something and I need you not to panic. Ashley began, her voice cold and businesslike. I've been going through your financial situation and it's worse than I thought. What do you mean worse than you thought, Ashley? What are you talking about? The house, Mum. You're behind on payments, way behind. And there are other debts I found. Credit cards you never told me about. I was completely bewildered. Ashley, I don't have any credit card debt. And I'm current on my mortgage. I may not have much money, but I pay my bills. Mum, you're confused. Maybe it's the medication, but trust me, I've seen the paperwork. We're looking at foreclosure if we don't act fast. The conviction in her voice made me doubt myself. Was it possible I'd forgotten about debts? Had the financial stress of my medical bills caused problems I wasn't aware of? What do you want me to do? I asked weakly. Don't worry about it. I'm handling everything. I've found a solution, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I wanted to trust her. This was my daughter, the baby I'd raised, the girl I'd sacrificed everything for. But something felt terribly wrong. Ashley, I want to see the paperwork you're talking about. Can you bring it to the hospital? There was a long pause. Mum, I'm really busy trying to fix this mess. Can't you just trust me for once, after everything I'm doing for you? The guilt trip worked. I backed down, apologizing for questioning her. But after I hung up, I called my bank from the hospital room. According to them all, my accounts were in good standing. I called my mortgage company next. Same story. No missed payments, no problems. So why was Ashley lying to me? That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ashley's face from before my surgery, so loving and concerned. But that version of my daughter seemed to be disappearing, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. The third day, Ashley was supposed to visit me before my discharge. She'd promised to pick me up, take me home, and help me settle in during my recovery. Instead, she called with excuses. I'm really sorry, Mum, but I'm tied up with your paperwork. This situation is more complicated than I thought. Can you take a cab home? I'll reimburse you. The nurses looked at me with sympathy as I explained that my daughter couldn't make it. They offered to call someone else, but there wasn't anyone else to call. All I had was Ashley. As I waited for my discharge papers, I tried calling Ashley one more time. This time when she answered, I could clearly hear my own car radio in the background. She was definitely driving my Honda. But where was she going? And why hadn't she come to see me even once during my 3-day hospital stay? Ashley, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Are you driving my car right now? Well, yeah, Mum. My car's in the shop, remember? You said I could borrow yours. I didn't remember saying that. But maybe I had. The pre-surgery anxiety had made everything a blur. Okay, but where are you going? I thought you were staying at the house. I am staying at the house. I'm just running errands. For you. God, Mum, why are you interrogating me? Her defensiveness scared me more than her lies. This wasn't the daughter I'd raised. This was someone else entirely, someone who was using my car to go places she wouldn't tell me about, someone who was researching my finances and lying about debts that didn't exist. As I sat in that hospital bed waiting for discharge papers and wondering how I was going to get home, I had no idea that the worst was yet to come. Ashley wasn't just lying to me. She was planning something that would destroy everything I'd worked for my entire life, and she thought she was going to get away with it. I was packed and ready to leave the hospital when my phone rang one final time. I saw Ashley's name on the caller ID and felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. Maybe she was calling to apologize, to explain whatever was going on, to tell me she was on her way to pick me up. Instead, she delivered the news that would change my life forever. Mum, I have something to tell you. Ashley's voice came through the phone crystal clear. In the background, I could hear the familiar hum of my Honda's engine, the slight rattle from the passenger side door that I'd been meaning to get fixed. I hope you're sitting down for this, she continued. And there was something in her tone that made my blood run cold. Not concern, not nervousness. Almost satisfaction. Your house and car are sold. For a moment I thought I'd misheard her. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. What did you say? Your house and car are sold, Mum. Everything's been taken care of. My phone almost slipped from my shaking hands. Ashley, what do you mean sold? How can you sell my house? How can you sell my car when you're driving it right now? She let out a laugh that I'd never heard from her before. Cold, calculating. I had power of attorney, remember, you signed the papers before your surgery. I ransacked my memory, trying to remember signing any such documents. There had been so many forms that week: medical releases, insurance paperwork, surgery consents. Had I signed something giving Ashley control over my assets? I couldn't remember, and that terrified me. Ashley, I don't understand. Even if I signed something, you can't just sell someone's house while they're in the hospital. That's not how it works. Actually, Mum, that's exactly how it works when someone has full financial power of attorney, and when the property owner is mentally incapacitated. Mentally incapacitated, Ashley? What are you talking about? I'm not mentally incapacitated. According to the medical documentation I provided, you are. The doctor's report about your reaction to anesthesia, your confusion and memory problems afterward. Very convincing evidence of cognitive decline. I felt like I was falling down a dark hole. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. My own daughter couldn't be doing this to me. Ashley, please tell me this is some kind of sick joke. Please tell me you haven't actually sold my house. It closed this morning, Mum. Cash buyer. Guy I know who invests in properties. He got a really good deal, actually. Below market value, but we needed to move fast. Below market value, Ashley, that house is worth over $200,000. Was worth that much. I sold it for $130,000. Like I said, we needed to move quickly and cash talks. I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't catch my breath. The room started spinning, and I felt like I might vomit. My house, the house where I'd raised my daughter, where David and I had planned our future, where every room held 20 years of memories, sold for $70,000 less than it was worth. And my car sold that too. Well, technically, I'm buying it from the estate. Seemed silly to let a stranger have it when I need reliable transportation. She was buying my car, with my money, from herself. Ashley, I think I'm having a heart attack. This can't be real. This can't be legal. It's completely legal, Mum. I have all the paperwork. Power of attorney. Medical documentation of your incapacity. Emergency sale authorization. Everything's been filed properly with the county. The nurse must have heard my distress, because she came rushing in, taking one look at my face and immediately checking my blood pressure. It was dangerously high. Ma'am, you need to calm down. Whatever's happening, we need to get your vitals stabilized. But I couldn't calm down. I was homeless. I was carless. And my daughter, the person I trusted most in the world, had orchestrated the whole thing. Ashley, where am I supposed to live? What am I supposed to do? Don't worry, Mum. I've got it all figured out. There's a really nice assisted living facility about an hour from here. They have an opening, and with your condition, I think it's the safest place for you. My condition, Ashley? I don't have a condition. I had surgery to remove cysts. That's not the same thing as being mentally incompetent. The doctor's notes say otherwise. Confusion, memory problems, inability to manage financial affairs. Classic signs of early onset dementia. I wanted to scream that there were no doctor's notes saying any such thing. I wanted to tell her that my mind was perfectly clear, that I remembered everything, that I knew exactly what she was doing. But suddenly I realized something that made everything even worse. Ashley, if you've sold everything and put me in a nursing home, what happens to the money? There was a pause. A long pause. And when she spoke again, that cold satisfaction was back in her voice. I'll be managing your finances, of course, making sure your care is paid for, that your needs are met. Everything will be handled responsibly. By you. By me. And whatever's left over, well, Mum, you always said you wanted me to be secure. You always said you were working so hard so that I could have a better life. Now I can have that life. I understood then. This wasn't about protecting me or managing my care. This was theft. Pure and simple. Ashley had stolen my house, my car, and my freedom. She'd forged documents to make it look legal. She'd probably bribed or fooled a doctor into writing false reports about my mental state. And she'd timed it perfectly while I was vulnerable and isolated in a hospital bed. How long have you been planning this? I whispered. Does it matter? It matters to me. Another pause. Since Dad died, really. I watched you struggle all those years, working yourself to death for what, a house that's falling apart, a car that barely runs. You were never going to have enough money to take care of yourself when you got old. I'm just accelerating the timeline. You're stealing from me. I'm inheriting what was always going to be mine anyway. I'm just doing it while I'm young enough to enjoy it, and while you're still alive to see me benefit from your sacrifices. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. She'd planned this for years. Every visit home, every conversation about my finances, every expression of concern about my future. It had all been research, preparation, planning for this moment when she could take everything and make it look legal. Ashley, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You need to stop this right now. You need to undo whatever you've done and give me back my property. I can't do that, Mum. The papers are already filed. The money's already been moved. And honestly, this is for your own good. You can't take care of yourself anymore. I can absolutely take care of myself. Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're having a complete mental breakdown over some simple financial arrangements. Maybe that nursing home is exactly where you belong. The line went dead. Ashley had hung up on me. I sat in that hospital bed staring at my phone, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. My daughter had stolen everything I owned, forged documents to make it legal, and arranged to have me locked away in a nursing home so I couldn't fight back. But Ashley had made one crucial mistake. She thought she knew everything about my financial situation. She thought she'd found every asset, every account, every piece of property I owned. She was wrong. As I sat in that hospital bed trying to process the magnitude of Ashley's betrayal, my mind went back to a conversation I'd had with David just weeks before he died. We'd been sitting on the porch of a little cabin by Pine Lake, a property his parents had left him that we rarely visited because it was so run down. "Catherine, sir," he'd said, watching the sunset reflect off the water. "Promise me something. If anything ever happens to me, promise me you'll keep this place. Don't sell it. Don't give it away. Keep it as a backup plan, a safety net. You never know when you might need somewhere to go." I'd laughed at him then, telling him nothing was going to happen to him, that we had years to fix up the cabin and make it into something special. But David had been serious. "I mean it, Kath. Put it in your maiden name if you have to. Keep it separate from everything else. Promise me." I'd promised, thinking it was just one of his paranoid moods. But after he died, I'd honored that promise. The cabin was registered under my maiden name, Catherine Wells, not Catherine Mitchell. The property taxes came to a separate P.O. box I'd maintained for 15 years. I'd never mentioned it to Ashley because she'd always hated camping and outdoor activities. She'd never asked about her father's family's property, and I'd never volunteered the information. Over the years, I'd drive out to Pine Lake maybe twice a year, just to check on the place and make sure no one had broken in. It wasn't much to look at a one-bedroom cabin with no modern amenities, surrounded by pine trees and accessible only by a dirt road. But it was mine, and more importantly, it was completely invisible to anyone looking at my finances under the name Catherine Mitchell. Ashley had done her homework, but she'd missed the most important thing. I wasn't as helpless as she thought I was. With shaking hands, I called directory assistants and asked for the number of Margaret Dalton, a real estate agent I'd met at the lake a few years back. Margaret specialized in lakefront properties and had mentioned several times that development was coming to the Pine Lake area. "Catherine, what a surprise to hear from you," Margaret said warmly. "How's that little cabin of yours doing?" "Margaret, I need to ask you something important. You mentioned that there was development planned near Pine Lake. Has that affected property values in the area?" "Oh my goodness. Yes, Catherine, your timing is incredible. They just announced the new resort complex last month. Lakefront properties in that area have tripled in value. I've been meaning to call you, actually. I have a client who's been looking for exactly what you have." My heart started racing. "What do you think the cabin might be worth now?" "Well, I'd have to do a proper assessment, but given the location and the development plans, I'd estimate somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. I nearly dropped the phone. $400,000. Ashley thought she'd stolen everything I owned for $130,000, but she'd missed an asset worth 3 times that amount. "Margaret, I need another favor. Do you know any attorneys who specialize in elder financial abuse?" There was a pause. "Catherine, is everything all right?" "No, it's not. But it might be soon." Margaret gave me the name of James Thompson, a lawyer who'd helped several seniors in the area recover assets stolen by family members. I called his office immediately, even though it was after hours. "Mr. Thompson, this is Catherine Wells. I need help. My daughter has stolen my house and car using forged power of attorney documents, and she's trying to have me committed to a nursing home so she can access the proceeds. Ms. Wells, slow down. Tell me everything from the beginning. For the next hour, I laid out the entire story. Ashley's sudden interest in my finances, her insistence on handling my surgery recovery, the mysterious paperwork and debts that didn't exist, the impossible sale of my house while I was unconscious in a hospital bed. Ms. Wells, what you're describing is textbook elder financial abuse with forged documents. It's not just a civil matter, it's criminal fraud. But I have to ask, do you have any assets that your daughter doesn't know about? I have a cabin at Pine Lake, registered under my maiden name. My daughter doesn't know it exists. And what's that property worth? According to my real estate agent, somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000. There was a long whistle on the other end of the line. Ms. Wells, your daughter may have just committed a felony for a fraction of what you're actually worth. We can use that cabin as leverage to not only recover your stolen property, but to press criminal charges. What do I need to do? First, don't sign anything else. Don't go to any nursing home. Don't let your daughter or anyone acting on her behalf have any contact with you without a witness present. Second, I'm going to arrange for a social worker to meet you at the hospital. We need to document your mental competency immediately to counter any claims your daughter might have made. And then we're going to destroy her case piece by piece and make sure she faces the full consequences of what she's done. For the first time since Ashley's call, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope. And beneath that hope, I felt something I'd never experienced toward my daughter before. Anger. Pure, righteous anger. Ashley thought she was so clever forging documents and stealing my life while I was helpless in a hospital bed. She thought she'd covered all her bases and planned the perfect crime. She had no idea what was coming for her. Within 2 hours of my call to James Thompson, my hospital room looked like a war room. James had arrived with a social worker named Patricia Reynolds, and together they'd begun documenting everything Ashley had done. Catherine, I need you to be very clear about your mental state, Patricia said gently. Have you experienced any confusion, memory loss, or cognitive difficulties beyond what would be normal after surgery and anesthesia? Absolutely not. My mind is completely clear. I remember every conversation, every lie Ashley told me, every detail of what she's done. James was taking notes rapidly. Tell me about these power of attorney documents Ashley claims you signed. I signed medical power of attorney forms, giving her the right to make medical decisions if I was unconscious. But I never signed anything giving her control over my property or finances. I would remember that. We'll need to get copies of whatever documents she filed with the county, James said. If she forged your signature on financial power of attorney papers, that's a felony. Patricia leaned forward. Catherine, I need to ask you some questions to establish your mental competency for our records. What's today's date? November 15th, 2023. Who's the current president? Joe Biden. Can you do some simple math for me? What's 17 times 4? 68. We went through 20 more questions testing my memory, my reasoning ability, my understanding of current events. I answered every single one correctly. Patricia smiled as she finished writing. Catherine, you are clearly mentally competent and capable of managing your own affairs. Anyone claiming otherwise is either mistaken or lying. Now, James said, tell me about this cabin at Pine Lake. I explained about David's parents leaving him the property, about his insistence that I keep it separate from our other assets, about registering it under my maiden name after he died. And your daughter has no knowledge of this property? None whatsoever. She's never liked the outdoors, never asked about her father's family's land, I never saw any reason to mention it. Catherine, this property could be the key to everything. If Ashley believes she's stolen your entire estate, but you actually have an asset worth more than everything she took combined, we can use that to force her to return everything and face criminal charges. What's our first step? We're going to set up a meeting with Ashley, here at the hospital with witnesses present. We're going to give her one chance to voluntarily return everything she's stolen. And if she refuses, James smiled grimly, then we're going to show her exactly how much trouble she's in. That evening, I called Ashley's number. She answered on the second ring, and I could hear music and voices in the background. She was celebrating. Hi, Mum. I hope you've had time to think about our conversation. I've been looking at that assisted living facility, and I really think you're going to like it. Ashley, I need to see you. Tomorrow morning. At the hospital. Mum, I'm really busy getting your affairs sorted out. Can't this wait until I get you checked into your new place? No, it can't wait. I need to see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Room 312. Don't be late. Is everything okay? You sound different. Everything's fine. I just need to see my daughter. Okay, I'll be there. But Mum, I hope you're not going to make this difficult. Everything I've done has been for your own good. I know you believe that, sweetheart. We'll talk tomorrow. After I hung up, James nodded approvingly. Perfect. Don't give her any hint of what's coming. The more confident she is, the more likely she'll incriminate herself. I barely slept that night, but it wasn't from distress. It was from anticipation. For 3 days, I'd felt like a victim, helpless and betrayed. Tomorrow, I was going to take my power back. At 9:45 the next morning, James, Patricia, and a hospital security guard were positioned discreetly around my room. Ashley arrived exactly on time, looking polished and professional in an expensive suit I'd never seen before. A suit she'd probably bought with money from my house. Hi, Mum, she said, leaning down to kiss my cheek. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling much better. Thank you. Ashley, I want you to meet some people. This is Patricia Reynolds, a social worker with the county. This is James Thompson, an attorney. They wanted to talk with us about the arrangements you've made for me. Ashley's confident smile flickered for just a moment. I'm not sure why we need social workers and lawyers involved, Mum. This is just family business. Please sit down, Patricia said kindly. We just want to make sure everyone's on the same page about Catherine's care and her financial situation. Ashley sat, but her posture was tense. I've handled everything according to proper legal procedures. I have all the documentation. I'm sure you do, James said smoothly. Can you tell us about the power of attorney documents Catherine signed? Of course. Full medical and financial power of attorney signed before her surgery in case of complications. And Catherine was mentally competent when she signed these documents. Absolutely, although she's shown increasing signs of cognitive decline since the surgery. Patricia consulted her clipboard. That's interesting, Ashley. I administered a comprehensive mental competency evaluation to your mother yesterday. She scored perfectly on every measure. Her cognitive function is completely normal. Ashley's face went pale. That can't be right. She's been confused, forgetful, unable to manage basic financial decisions. What evidence do you have of this confusion? James asked. Well, she didn't remember debts she owed. She was confused about her financial situation. Ashley, I said quietly, what debts? I called the bank and my mortgage company. All my accounts are current. There are no debts. Ashley's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The paperwork I found. What paperwork? Where did you find it? It was in your files. James leaned forward. Ashley, did you create false documentation to support claims of your mother's debts and mental incapacity? I don't have to answer that. Actually, you do, because if you forged any documents, you've committed multiple felonies: elder abuse, fraud, forgery, theft of property. We're talking about decades in prison. Ashley shot to her feet. I don't have to listen to this. I was protecting my mother. By stealing her house, Patricia asked calmly. By making sure she's taken care of. With money you stole from her. It was always going to be mine anyway. But it's not yours now, James said. And taking it without permission is theft. Ashley looked around the room, finally understanding that she was trapped. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can. We have your mother's competency evaluation proving she's mentally sound. We have the bank records showing no debts existed. We have witness statements about your suspicious behavior, and we're going to examine every document you filed to prove they're forgeries. This is ridiculous. Mom, tell them to stop this. I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised and loved and sacrificed everything for, and felt a calm settle over me that surprised me with its strength. Ashley, you stole my house. You stole my car. You forged documents to make it look legal. You planned to lock me in a nursing home and spend my money. Did you really think I was going to let that happen? I did it for you. No, you did it for yourself. And you forgot something very important. Ashley's eyes narrowed. What did I forget? I smiled, and it felt like the first genuine smile I'd had in weeks. You forgot that you don't know everything about me. You never asked about your father's family property. You never asked about assets I might have under my maiden name. You assumed you'd found everything, but you didn't. What are you talking about? James opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. Your mother owns a cabin at Pine Lake, worth approximately $450,000. You stole a house worth $200,000 and sold it for $130,000, which means you committed multiple felonies to steal less than a third of what your mother is actually worth. The color drained from Ashley's face completely. That's impossible. The property assessment is right here, James continued, as is the deed showing Catherine Wells as the sole owner. That's your mother's maiden name, in case you were wondering. Ashley sank back into her chair. You have another property. I've had it for 15 years, sweetheart. Your father made me promise to keep it as a safety net. I never thought I'd need to use it to protect myself from my own daughter. For a long moment, Ashley just stared at me. Then her expression changed from shock to something calculating and cold. Fine. So you have another property. That doesn't change anything. I still have power of attorney. I can sell that too. No, Patricia said firmly. You can't, because the power of attorney documents you filed are forgeries, and we're going to prove it. And because your mother is mentally competent to revoke any legitimate authority you might have had. This is insane. I'm trying to help her. By stealing from her, by managing assets she can't handle anymore. James stood up. Ashley, I'm going to give you one chance to make this right. You can voluntarily reverse the sale of your mother's house and car, return all proceeds, and submit to a psychiatric evaluation to determine if you need help with gambling addiction or other issues that might have led to this behavior. Ashley's head snapped up. How did you know about gambling? The words were out of her mouth before she could stop them. James smiled. We didn't until just now. Thank you for confirming that financial desperation was your motive. Ashley realized her mistake and clamped her mouth shut. Here's what's going to happen, James continued. You have 24 hours to begin returning your mother's stolen property. If you refuse, we're filing criminal charges, and we'll use your mother's cabin as collateral to hire the best prosecutors in the state. Your choice. Ashley looked at each of us in turn. her face cycling through emotions I'd never seen before. Rage, fear, calculation, desperation. Finally, she looked directly at me. After everything I've done for you, after everything you put me through growing up, this is how you repay me. Ashley, what I put you through was loving you, supporting you, and sacrificing my own needs to give you opportunities. If that felt like a burden to you, I'm sorry, but it didn't give you the right to steal my life. Ashley stood up abruptly, knocking over her chair. You'll regret this, Mum. When I'm in prison and you're all alone, you'll regret this. She stormed out of the room, leaving us in stunned silence. Patricia was the first to speak. That went better than expected. Better? I asked. She confessed to gambling problems and essentially admitted to the theft. Everything was recorded. If she doesn't return your property voluntarily, we have everything we need to convict her. As I watched my daughter disappear down the hospital corridor, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I was free from Ashley's manipulation, her demands, her constant need for money and support. I was free to build the life I actually wanted, instead of the life someone else expected from me. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of activity. James filed preliminary criminal charges to establish a paper trail, while Patricia worked with the hospital to document my competency and ensure Ashley couldn't try to have me involuntarily committed. Margaret Dalton drove up from Pine Lake with updated property assessments and photos of the development happening around my cabin. Catherine, I hope you don't mind, but I drove by your place yesterday, Margaret said, spreading pictures across my hospital bed table. I wanted to see the condition of the structure before we talk about listing it. I stared at the photos in amazement. The little cabin I remembered as run down and isolated was now surrounded by construction. Roads were being paved, power lines were being installed. In the distance, I could see the framework of what looked like a resort complex. How much did you say it was worth? I'm revising my estimate upward, with the infrastructure improvements. I think we're looking at 500,000, possibly more, if we wait another 6 months for the resort to open. $500,000. Ashley had destroyed our relationship and committed multiple felonies for $130,000, not knowing she'd left behind an asset worth 4 times that amount. James looked over the photos and whistled low. Catherine, even if Ashley refuses to return your house and we have to pursue criminal prosecution, you're going to be financially secure. More than secure. What are the chances she'll actually return what she stole? Honestly low. People who commit this kind of crime usually double down rather than admit fault. But we'll know for sure in a few hours. At exactly 24 hours after our hospital confrontation, Ashley called my room. I put her on speaker so James and Patricia could hear. Mum, I've been thinking about everything we discussed, and I can't undo the house sale. It's too complicated, there are too many legal issues. But I can give you the money from the sale and help you find a nice apartment. Ashley, we told you yesterday what needed to happen. You need to reverse the entire transaction. I can't do that. Why not? There was a long pause. Because I already spent some of the money. James grabbed a pen and started writing furiously. Another confession. How much did you spend, Ashley? Does it matter? Look. I can give you $90,000. That's enough for a down payment on a nice condo somewhere. You spent $40,000 in 3 days. Mum, I had debts, urgent debts. People who were going to hurt me if I didn't pay them. Gambling debts. It doesn't matter what kind of debts they were. I'm offering you $90,000 and help finding a place to live. That's generous. James shook his head and mouthed criminal charges. Ashley, the offer was for full restitution. You've refused. We'll see you in court. Mum, wait. You don't understand. If I go to prison, you'll never see that money again. Take the 90,000 while you can get it. I don't need your 90,000, sweetheart. I have other resources. What other resources? I know exactly what you have. No, you don't. You never asked about your father's family property. You never cared enough about our family history to learn what assets we actually had. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the cabin at Pine Lake that's worth $500,000. The cabin you didn't know existed because you never bothered to ask. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. $500,000. That's right. You've had $500,000 this whole time. I've had a property worth that much, yes. And you never told me. The indignation in her voice was breathtaking. She'd stolen everything I owned. Forged documents, lied to doctors and social workers, planned to lock me in a nursing home. And she was angry that I'd kept a financial secret from her. Ashley, why would I tell you so you could steal that too? I never stole anything. I was trying to protect your assets by selling them below market value to your friends and keeping the money. I was going to take care of you with that money, in the cheapest nursing home you could find while you spent the rest. That's not true. James leaned toward the phone. Ashley, this is James Thompson. I'm going to ask you directly. Are you willing to return your mother's stolen property and submit to a full financial audit to determine how much restitution you owe? I don't have to talk to you. You're right, you don't. You can talk to the police instead. We're filing charges this afternoon. Wait, Mum, please. I'm your daughter. I made mistakes, but I'm still your family, Ashley. You stopped being my family the moment you forged my signature and stole my home. Family doesn't do that to each other. But you're all I have. That's not true anymore. And whose fault is that? I heard Ashley start crying on the other end of the line. For a moment, just a moment, I felt the old urge to comfort her, to make everything okay. But then I remembered the cold satisfaction in her voice when she'd told me my house was sold. I remembered her saying I belonged in a nursing home. I remembered her planning to spend my money while I rotted away in the cheapest care facility she could find. Mum, please. I'll get help. I'll go to therapy. I'll pay back what I spent. With what money, Ashley? You've proven you can't be trusted with finances. I'll get a job. I'll work extra hours. You had a job. You used it to research how to steal from elderly people. That's not... I didn't... Goodbye, Ashley. I hung up the phone and looked at James and Patricia. File the charges. 2 hours later, Ashley was arrested at the apartment she'd rented with my house money. According to James, she was found with evidence of significant gambling activity, including betting slips and correspondence with loan sharks. The district attorney is taking this very seriously, James told me that evening. Elder financial abuse, especially involving family members, is a priority for prosecution. Ashley's looking at 5 to 10 years in prison. And my house. The sale will be reversed. The buyer was working with Ashley to defraud you, so he's facing charges too. You'll get the full market value, not the discounted price Ashley accepted. And my car. Already being repossessed from the impound lot where Ashley abandoned it when she was arrested. I leaned back in my hospital bed, feeling emotionally exhausted but oddly peaceful. Tomorrow I'd be discharged with no home to go to, but with legal proceedings in motion to restore everything Ashley had stolen. In the meantime, I had a cabin at Pine Lake and enough money to rebuild my life however I chose. For the first time in 15 years, I was going to be living for myself instead of sacrificing for someone else. It felt terrifying and liberating at the same time. 2 years have passed since that day in the hospital, and I'm writing this from the porch of my beautifully renovated cabin at Pine Lake. What started as a rundown structure has become my dream home with modern amenities, a wraparound porch, and a garden that overlooks the water. The legal proceedings took 18 months to fully resolve. Ashley was sentenced to 3 years in prison and 5 years of supervised probation. She was ordered to pay full restitution, including the $40,000 she'd spent on gambling debts. The house sale was reversed, and I received the full market value of $210,000. I chose not to move back to Maple Street. Too many memories, both good and painful. Instead, I sold the house legitimately and used the proceeds to renovate the cabin and secure my financial future. The Pine Lake area has exploded with development, just as Margaret predicted. My property is now worth over $600,000, but I'm not selling. This is home. I wake up every morning to the sound of water lapping against the shore and fall asleep to the call of loons across the lake. I've built a new life here, surrounded by people who value authenticity over manipulation. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, is a retired teacher who brings me vegetables from her garden. Tom and Linda Morrison run the local hardware store and helped me learn about home renovation. Sarah from the diner drives up every few weeks to check on me and share gossip from town. I volunteer at the senior center, helping other elderly people recognize and protect themselves from financial abuse. I've spoken at conferences about elder rights and worked with law enforcement to identify warning signs of family financial exploitation. My story has helped recover over $2 million in stolen assets for other seniors. The work has given me a sense of purpose I never had before. Instead of just surviving from paycheck to paycheck, I'm actively making a difference in people's lives. Ashley has written me letters from prison. At first they were angry, blaming me for her situation. Then they became manipulative, promising change and begging forgiveness. Recently they've become more reflective, suggesting she's finally beginning to understand the magnitude of what she did. I've attended some of her therapy sessions, as requested by her counselors. Ashley has been diagnosed with gambling addiction and narcissistic personality traits. She's making progress, but she has years of work ahead of her to become someone capable of healthy relationships. I've forgiven her for my own peace of mind, but forgiveness doesn't mean returning to old patterns. If Ashley ever gets her life together, we might rebuild some kind of relationship. But it will be a new relationship with clear boundaries and realistic expectations, not the enabling dynamic we had before. The greatest gift of this experience has been discovering my own strength. I spent so many years seeing myself as Ashley's mother, David's widow, someone defined by her relationships to other people. Now I know myself as Catherine Wells, a woman capable of fighting for herself, building the life she wants, and helping others do the same. I'm 65 now, officially retired, and I've never been happier. I read books on my porch in the morning, tend my garden in the afternoon, and take evening walks along the lake. I have enough money to be comfortable friends who care about me for who I am, and the deep satisfaction of knowing I stood up for myself when it mattered most. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I'd never discovered Ashley's theft. I'd be in some awful nursing home right now, probably heavily medicated to keep me compliant, while Ashley lived off my stolen money and told people she was such a good daughter for taking care of me. Instead, I'm living proof that it's never too late to fight back, never too late to reclaim your life, and never too late to discover strength you didn't know you had. Ashley thought she knew everything about me, but she forgot the most important thing. She forgot that the woman who raised her alone, who worked double shifts for 15 years, who survived the death of her husband and built a life from nothing, was never going to go down without a fight. And that fight, it set me free in ways I never imagined possible. Have you ever had someone close to you betray your trust completely? How did you find the strength to move forward? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Please like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family challenges, and share this with anyone who might need to hear that they're stronger than they think they are. Remember, it's never too late to stand up for yourself and create the life you deserve. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you all the courage to fight for your own happiness when the time comes.